I just changed my name.
Let's see. Did it come up? Where is it? How come I don't see it?
Put your cursor over the camera.
Oh, there we go. Friendly neighborhood Brent. There we go. Oh, don't want to do that. Don't want to share the screen. Nope. Not doing that.
I mean, you can, but I don't really need it.
All right. Enough of you, Mr. Snell. I appreciate you welcoming us to Geek Ultimate Alliance. And there we go. Live. All right. Here's the ad. And I love it how it just automatically populates to Geek First, and it says Travis welcoming us to Geek First. Close that. I'm going to skip the ad for Discovery, which I'm very excited about. All right. It looks like we're live, so let me start tweeting this out. How was your work today?
It's all right. Well, if some people would just own up to the fact that they didn't read what was in their help desk ticket, and that's why they showed up an hour and a half before they were supposed to, then their life would be a lot easier.
Oh, wow. Fanboy Clay. He was ready. Hey, Clay.
Whenever you're ready, I'm good.
Okay, I just tweeted it out on Marvel Alliance. So let me share it in the group chat. Sure, it's the right one.
If you care, YouTube is showing speaker view.
Oh, how do I change that?
I don't know. Are you on speaker view?
I could do gallery. There we go. Let's see if that changes it.
I have to wait for the delay.
Yep, there we go.
Again. Perfect.
There we go. Oh shoot, that didn't do it. Okay, I gotta check that. Gotta get rid of that tweet. No. Drat. I hate doing this stuff.
You can actually get the link for the live videos ahead of time before
get
you
rid of this
button.
tweet. Try it again.
Since this is all live right now.
YouTube notifications are great. Yes, they are. All right, try this again. Marvel Alliance number 20 is live. There we go. Okay. Now I've officially made the correct tweet out. Sorry for the delay, Brent.
No worries.
You're still muted.
I didn't say anything.
All right. You ready?
Hit it.
Oh, you're muted.
Hit it.
Nope.
Really? You don't hear me right now? What about now?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We can hear Brent. Oh, there we are. Yep. Never mind. That's mine. That's user error on that part.
That's right. That's right.
Duh.
It's like I've used this mute app for 57,000 podcast episodes. What
There we
are you
go.
talking
Thank
about?
you.
You can't hear me.
It feels like we're in a Verizon commercial. All right. So let us. All right. You ready with recording on your end? All right. So 3, 2, 1, record.
I started it before you did.
Oh, that's fine. All right. Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we go from the Mojoverse to Earth 616 to the Negative Zone to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. My name is the Uncanny Chris.
And I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance Assemble. How you doing tonight, Brent?
I am good. I am excited to be back 2 weeks in a row, officially on a quarter of the episodes for this show. I love it.
Exactly. Marvel Alliance number 20. And my illustrious co-host is still working this week. Hopefully the plan is for him to return next week, make a triumphant return, and hopefully maybe break some Moon Knight news. We're keeping our fingers crossed. We held out for 2 weeks, so I know he's hoping and praying for that Moon Knight news. So that'll be a nice welcome back, but we'll see what happens. So appreciate you subbing in again. And you doing well tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm a little disappointed we didn't get the Moon Knight news. I was really hoping that would happen while he was gone, just to troll him a little bit, but that's all right. We got the Miss Marvel stuff last week. We got some good stuff to talk about this week that I do want to hear his thoughts on. So maybe he'll give us maybe I can formally request a brief couple minutes on all the news from the past couple of weeks that he's missed.
Exactly. But always watching. He is there in the chat. Look at him. It's like the watcher.
Stanley of the Geek Ultimate Alliance.
Exactly. So you wanted to do the plug. So Brent, why don't you take away the
I'm
plugs
doing it this week? All right, Geek Ultimate Alliance. On Monday, you got Chris with World's Finest True Believers. Tuesday, Greg and 57 are doing DC Alliance. On Wednesday, you've got Marvel Alliance, typically with Snell, with me filling in obviously this week, and you, of course, Chris. Thursday is Katie's Day, alternating slice of film with Star Wars Alliance, but I heard Star Wars Alliance is with Nathan. I heard that's going to be going weekly soon. So that's pretty cool. Friday nights live is the Super Civil Servants podcast. Of course, Saturdays is the audio for that. And then Weird Science is on the weekends with Jim covering both DC and Marvel. So 57, I think I beat your record.
Yeah, it looks to be almost like close, if not 20 seconds, almost just a little bit before, a little bit after. So, we'll have to see how he responds to that in the chat. So we also have a Patreon. If you enjoying, just want to give us a little tip at that point, $1, we'll just say, hey, we like what you're doing. We appreciate any and all. Oh, he did call out something.
I did. I left out superhero discussions. All right. Well, let's add 10 more seconds for me to say superhero discussions with Greg and Travis are right now. They're dropping old Spider-Man episodes they did, but they just wrapped up Superman, the animated series. I'm going to just say I'm still underneath his record, so that's all right.
Sorry, Travis, at that point.
Not too sorry.
Oh, not too sorry. Yes. And I believe the winner of what will eventually come on to their new show looking at is Batman, the animated series, which none of us are too surprised that I ended up winning out.
No, but he said Greg's never seen it, which I didn't realize. I knew he hadn't seen Superman, but he's in for a treat. He's about to watch the definitive Batman.
I do have to ask him, and since he's listening, I wonder if they're going to work in Mask of the Phantasm into that kind of run. I think it would be appropriate.
I mean, it's required. It's part of the canon, right?
It is. It is definitely part of the canon. So, but yeah, so we got the Patreon, $1. Again, if you just say you like us, you like what we're doing. And then we got a $5 tier. Oh, good. Yes, he's confirmed. It is after season 1. Excellent. So then we got the $5 tier where you get a couple of things. You get every episode ad free. You get early access to episodes such as World's Finest, Slice of Film, Star Wars Alliance, superhero discussions all drop early, so you get access to those, and then you get Patreon exclusive episodes. We just dropped a recent one that'll be a timed exclusive for Patreon. Superhero discussions. Myself, Greg, and Travis did a rewatch, a review, and retrospective on Batman Under the Red Hood in anticipation for our follow-up Patreon exclusive, looking at Batman Death in the Family that just released yesterday. Yes, yesterday at that point. My copy is coming in. No, actually it's today. So yes, today, tonight. When you all listen to this, it'll be yesterday. But my copy is coming in on Thursday. So I'm very excited to read that. The reviews have been as expected, but it's Batman, it's Death in the Family, it's choose your own adventure. I'm sold. For $13. I can stomach that.
Wow, I didn't realize it was only $13. I'll check it out eventually on HBO Max probably.
Exactly. So we're excited to try all those choices. So again, we appreciate everything. And if you can't support us on Patreon, no big deal. We appreciate you listening. If you get the time to you take about 5-10 seconds to rate and review us on Apple Podcast or whichever your podcatcher choice may be. As always, we appreciate everything y'all do for supporting our network. So, all right. So we got all that out of the way. Like we said, we've gone on. I think Snell mentioned it in the chat that we've had, but your time on here, you've got 2 shows back to back with major Spider-Man news.
Yeah, this was, this was. I mean, okay, I don't know. I would have expected this before the Electro news last week, but this feels like a bigger deal. Like this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little nervous. I got a little bit of anxiety about it, but overall I'm excited. Overall, I'm down for it. Benedict Cumberbatch joining Spider-Man 3 as Doctor Strange, of course. Fantastic.
Yes, we knew this was, after, once we heard from Far From Home was in production, Nick Fury was going to be the quote unquote new taking over for the mentor role. They said that this is where the next film was going to be. There'd be another new quote unquote mentor. And Doctor Strange, yes, considering, like you said, the Electro news last week, considering where we know or what we understand is going on in Doctor Strange in the multiverse of madness, and this movie comes out, at least right now, it's scheduled for December of 2021, I believe, currently. This comes
it doesn't matter though.
It doesn't matter, which
dates
is still
don't matter right now.
Dates don't matter, particularly that it is only a month after where Eternals is currently slated to go. So if that stays right now, it still is coming before Multiverse of Madness. So I still think that is going to, I think they would have moved it after it if it wasn't going to have any kind of impact on Multiverse of Madness. So we're definitely going to talk about that. This is just awesome news and brings up so many different questions at that point. Like you said, yours and I's big excitement and worry is a little story called One More Day.
It is. For those that don't know, I hate Mephisto because he ruins stories. And in One More Day, for multiple characters, in One More Day, at the end, he basically changed reality, wiping away Peter and MJ's marriage, saving the life of Aunt May, who had been previously shot during the Back in Black storyline. And this totally changed everything. Well, in the Brand New Day continuity, the current continuity, Peter remembers Doctor Strange fixing reality, changing reality, so everybody forgot his identity, which means immediately when I find out Doctor Strange is going to be in this movie, I'm like, well, his identity is outed. Is he going to go to Doctor Strange and say, hey, can you help? Can you, do the circle thing with your arms and somehow make everybody forget? Now, there's obviously other implications. Of course, the MCU has never like for like directly adapted a storyline, Civil
Correct.
War, not a straight adaptation. Age of Ultron is nothing like the comic other than
Name
Ultron is the
only.
villain. And of course, even Infinity War is not a direct translation of the Infinity Gauntlet storylines. They just haven't done the strict adaptations really. So I have hope. Plus it's Feige. It's Marvel. It's John Watson directing still. I have hope. I'm going to be fine. It's going to be fine. I would love it, though, if Mephisto had nothing to do with it. As far as I'm concerned, he could never show up in the MCU to begin with. Terrible character because he ruins storylines. But I mean, to me, one thing that I think is really interesting about this whole Doctor Strange Spider-Man thing is the dates have reversed. Not the dates, the order. The
Yeah.
order has reversed because originally, the original plan when they announced Spider-Man 3, it was going to be in May of 2021, or I'm sorry, Spider-Man 3 is going to be in July of 2021 with Strange right before it, few months before it. Now that order is reversed. So we were going to have Doctor Strange first, then Spider-Man. Now we have Spider-Man coming first, then Doctor Strange. So I think it's pretty clear at this point, coronavirus has changed some of the plans. They didn't just shift everything down line. Some plans had to have changed. Like, to me, this is full on evidence that some things have changed. Maybe for the better. Maybe they now have an opportunity to get Benedict Cumberbatch for the role. Maybe before they didn't. I can't speak to that. I just think it is interesting that we now definitively know that at least some things in the MCU have changed. But all in all joking aside, I really am excited to have Doctor Strange coming in. There are so many multiverse implications right now when we combine this with the news about Electro from last week that my expectations are in check, but I'm acknowledging that as big as we thought the table was last week, it's bigger this week.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. We're seeing Travis Hines says, secret identity or multiverse. Fanboy Clay is saying the ending of Far From Home leans itself towards secret identity. And possibly both. Yeah, I agree with the idea the multiverse is definitely in play in some way, shape, or form. WandaVision, Wanda playing a direct part coming before now Spider-Man coming then before Doctor Strange. I mean, this is a huge two major either series, movie leading towards what now has become probably, I would say right now, it's my most anticipated movie of this slate right now because of how they're building his character up.
I mean, it's Spider-Man. So of course
Yeah.
it's the
I was even just referring to Doctor Strange at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant the Spider-Man.
Oh, but yes, always Spider-Man. But
these two movies now in tandem though, they like I had anticipated Captain Marvel 2 being like the big movie for this
as well.
And it may still be the case. But I'm certainly if Captain Marvel 2 is like the big one, Doctor Strange may be right under it, right? Like Doctor Strange may be like Civil War level to Captain Marvel's Infinity War. Like obviously it's not gonna be quite as big as Infinity War, but you get what I'm saying. These two movies are Doctor Strange has dramatically gone up on my you have my attention list.
Yeah, I think the lines between the universes become very blurred in the events of WandaVision. What we exactly see, where do we end up at the end of that? We've heard a lot of rumors in the last few weeks. From Tobey Maguire to Andrew Garfield's own interpretation of the web slinger, Kirsten Dunst, Doc Ock, William Dafoe, Green Goblin, to Emma Stone. We've heard a lot of rumors flying around, and some have floated around last night into this morning. No one major necessarily picking it up. That both Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire have supposedly signed, and this has been a done deal for a while. Again, I'll wait to see when it starts becoming a little more major, because those rumors have been floating around for a very, very long time without too much credence. But again, a possibility. We get the idea of, yes, that's why I won't mention his name, Travis. I'm not going to give him credence. The one who supposedly scooped it. I'm sorry, he will not get recognition on the show. I'll just say the scooper supposedly got it. The idea of the role of the mentor, I think it will be interesting to see if he does, or it could be in a sense of a more longer term cameo like it was in Thor Ragnarok. But I don't think it's going to be the cameo part. I really do think he's going to have a significant part in this. And the idea that, yeah, they can adapt the after effects of One More Day when Strange wipes the identity from everyone's memory. I think that was that part's
fine. I'll take that.
Yeah, exactly. And just seeing it at that point, like you said, they've never completely adapted an entire storyline. They've done winks and nods for the fans, and then everyone else gets to kind of enjoy it and then hopefully say, what was the story like? No, you don't need to go that.
Doesn't matter.
Nope, sorry. Just forget about it. The rest of the JMS run, great. That part,
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that particular run, it's got a couple stories in there that gets the Spider-Man fanboys all riled up, but it's got some great stuff in there as well. One of my favorite Spider-Man stories is in that run. So
Yes, exactly.
which
So
we've talked about before, but we may need to talk about that officially at some point.
mhm.
But
there might be a show for that.
there might be a show for that. Good excuse to revisit it. With the multiverse coming, I am excited for what this could mean.
Mhm.
I liked Amazing Spider-Man 1 a lot. Number 2, it's all right. It's got some, if nothing else, it's got some cool visuals and some cool chemistry between Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield. And then of course Tobey Maguire is great as Spider-Man as well. Yeah, I have my favorite. I've never been bashful about that. But that doesn't mean I don't appreciate the other live action Spider-Mans as well. Right there, I see what you're pointing at. I like all of the Spider-Mans. Like, that's great. So if it really does happen, if Garfield and or Maguire, if either of them or both of them show up in something with Tom Holland, I will absolutely love that. I will absolutely love that. That will be amazing. If it doesn't happen, it's okay. It's okay. The multiverse could truly just mean like the MCU multiverse, like the other timelines and stuff like with like Loki and maybe what's going on with What If. But if it happens, that would be pretty awesome. And wow, you want to talk about a way to get people to go out to the movie theaters after all this? Bring back Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. That will definitely do it. I mean, let's be honest. People will show up for him alone, let alone the Andrew Garfield fans, and let alone the MCU fans in general.
Oh yeah, definitely. Jay saying Maguire was cool Spider-Man, the worst Peter Parker, and my comment back was, yeah, we can't always forget about emo Parker. Fanboy Clay
just said the same thing.
We don't talk about that.
I mean, to me, Maguire was overall, emo Parker aside. I mean, we know why the emo Parker thing happened. He was obviously had the symbiote on him at the time. The thing is, I do think Maguire was a great Peter Parker, and I really liked Garfield's Spider-Man. Tom Holland is the one that brings them together for me, but I understand why people have their preferences. And if you tell me any of them, it's like, I'm with you on all of them. I get it. It's totally cool with me. They're all cool. They've all got great costumes. They all have great action scenes. Seeing the three of them fight together would be really something. I don't mean fighting each other, but I mean like with each other on the same side. That would be awesome.
Yeah, and some other news is starting to pick up steam that supposedly Marvel has already found and cast their Miles at that point. I think it was MCU Cosmic is supposedly he has his sources, but not really saying anything that they have found their Miles and have cast him. To me, that's nothing new. I was pretty much understanding that they have been searching for a Miles, either Sony, Marvel, or both at that point. But that one again, I'll say, sure, Jane. Well, wait till we get a little more reliable.
Yeah, that kind of broke one of the fact or fictions I was going to throw at you later with that rumor coming out today.
Even if it's true, I want it. That's great. I think
absolutely.
we already got the big drop of hint that Miles does exist in the Tom Holland universe with Donald Glover's character. That I think it was it the end credit scene or a deleted scene?
Neither. It's like in the middle
of the thing. He's
before the big ferry boat scene.
He's calling Miles at that point, trying to get him out of there. So he does exist in this universe. Travis Snell's asking, which Toby villain would you want back more, Goblin or Doc Ock? If I have to choose my favorite villain, I would say I'm going to go with Doc Ock because I want an MCU's new version of Goblin. I think Doc Ock would be my choice at that point, but I'll wait to see an MCU version of Goblin. How about you, Brent?
Of those two, I liked William Dafoe's Goblin more. Not his costume. I don't need the Power Ranger suit. But
that's what she comes with.
But as the character, he was fantastic. As the character, and
I agree.
I'm not trying to say anything bad about Andrew Molina's Dr. Octopus. I mean, he definitely embodied Dr. Octopus as well. But that is tough because as you say, you would prefer to see the MCU's take on the Green Goblin. And for what it's worth, I would love to see a much more comic accurate costume for the Green Goblin.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of potentially someday down the line, Dr. Octopus maybe being able to go the Superior route. I just don't want to take Superior off the table because to me,
Yeah.
Dr. Octopus has never been as interesting as when he was the Superior Spider-Man followed up by the Superior Octopus.
Yeah. No, I agree. That was that idea just like people's like, what the heck did you do? No, this is not going to work. And man, were they wrong. I was sold on it just because
Oh, yes.
because I'd never seen we've seen mind swaps before, but not on this level and not to almost a permanent state, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, if you haven't read Superior Spider-Man, I would highly recommend it. Amazing 698 through 700, and then go into Superior. It's all on Marvel Unlimited, but it is just such a cool storyline. And yeah, we all know Peter Parker was coming back. Everybody knew Peter Parker was going back. Fanboy Clay, what if they go with the Ultimate Goblin? That would not surprise me at all. The Ultimates is a huge influence on this universe, and that would be a way to differentiate from what they did. But Superior Spider-Man, sure, Peter comes back, but this isn't the end of like that version of Dr. Octopus. Like he definitely goes on. He ends up, without getting into it all, he ends up in a clone body of Peter for a while as the Superior Octopus with just a fantastic costume. Just one of the coolest like versions of Dr. Octopus ever. Absolutely my favorite. So that's really who I would want. I mean, to really answer the question, I don't see either of them coming back. I think if they really wanted to bring back a villain from the Maguire years, I actually think it would be Sandman. That's the one I think is most likely because he's I mean, lower tier, like not quite as big of a name actor. I just feel like he is probably the character more likely to do it. As far as the actors, I don't know, but Sandman would be my official guess if I had to. Not the one I would most want, the one I think would be most likely to happen.
Interesting. Jay, you're right. Superior does still exist in the universe.
Yes. He does. He's around. His book is ended though, sadly.
Yes, but, unfortunately.
And he went from Superior Octopus back to Superior Spider-Man, and he's well, I don't want to ruin how that ended, but regardless,
stay tuned.
You should absolutely read it. I love the whole Superior run. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, definitely great. So, all right. So before we head into some more news, if you have any more to say on this one, Brent?
I think we're good there.
Okay. So we are going to head into an ad break right now. So I'm doing this better. I'm going to be a better host this week, writing down the ad time. These wonderful ads, they help keep, let's try to do a Marvel thing. They help keep Galactus's Infinite Gauntlet lit up. They help keep it lit up at that point. And
Galactus's Infinite Gauntlet?
That's ridiculous. Galactus's Infinite Gauntlet. Let's do we had Silver Surfers that had the Infinite Gauntlet. Black Panther.
They keep web fluid in the web shooters if you really want something.
I like that. They keep the web fluid and the web shooters to Parker at that point. So we do not get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. So we're gonna do a 3 count, and we'll be right back. So 3, 2, 1. And we are back. So we'll continue on with a little bit of Spider-Man news too, just kind of continuing on with this idea of a multiverse. The Direct reports that Spider-Man 3 Tom Hardy rumored to be in consideration for the Venom role in Marvel's sequel. This has been a long thought after, is Holland going to be in Let There Be Carnage? Is Hardy going to be making an appearance in Spider-Man 3 Can't Go Home Again, or Home Invasion, or whatever whatever we're calling it? But the idea of it is what is it? We can kind of look at this from two ways. It's the idea that we have one option where Feige could want to bring in the Sonyverse flicks into the fold, and he sees money to be made, and if the deal can be worked out for an interdimensional crossover, or Feige is possibly setting up Tom Holland's exit from the MCU, and the extension is that's it. And so when Doctor Strange comes in, he can maybe find a way to usher Peter into the Venom Sony verse. Obviously, my thought is I want them all to stay in one universe, but I'm not the one in charge.
So, first of all, the wording on this like headline from the direct is awkward. Tom Hardy rumored to be in consideration for the Venom role. Venom role. That implies there's other people rumored to be in consideration for a Venom role, which there's no way right now that Sony would allow Venom to be used in an MCU movie if it wasn't Tom Hardy. Like that doesn't make sense to me. So that really, let's look at both of your hypotheticals there. Feige is setting up for the SPUMC characters to be a part of the MCU, or it's setting up his exit. Well, I don't think it's the exit for two reasons. Because one, there's another appearance of Spider-Man after this. Mm-hmm. He has a team up with unless it's going to be a case of like he leaves and comes back later, which is sure, I could see that, but then I wouldn't call that really his exit. He has another appearance, so I don't think he's done. Plus, if they were setting up his exit, why bring in Tom Hardy? Bringing in Tom Hardy to me is more about integrating him and the Morbius group of characters into the MCU proper than it would be about pushing Tom Holland out of it.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I have long thought that we are going to inevitably see Tom Holland and Tom Hardy face off with each other. If we do, I hope we even get just a couple minutes of the symbiote taking over Tom Holland so we can get the black suit. And I don't want the black suit where it's just over his regular suit like we got in Spider-Man 3. I really want like the solid black with the white spider on it. And then I would love for that to lead to Venom getting the white spider afterwards when the symbiote originally when it goes back to Tom Hardy.
Oh yeah, maybe like you said, that's like the symbiote taking the idea of, oh, I like that symbol, I'm going to make it my own.
Right, exactly. And that, I mean, it still wouldn't be quite the same thing as what happened in the comics, but that would be kind of a way to make a connection between the characters, between the symbiote and Eddie and Peter. Eddie could be jealous of the symbiote and the Peter. And I think that would be a way to do it if Feige was willing to let them come in. Mm-hmm. The real tell will be the day that we find out that there is an SPUMC movie and Feige is actually letting an MCU actor or actress appear in it. That will be a really, really big tell on the relationship between these two companies when that happens. And honestly, I do think it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's too, I mean, Venom is just for what, even though in the current iteration, it's not, we haven't seen a Spider-Man in that particular franchise yet. He's too connected to Spider-Man. I think when Venom came out, I think you and Rayon fans had talked about how maybe you can definitely go one, maybe two movies without even mentioning Spider-Man. But after that, it's going to be very interesting. And yes, I know I'm a big fan of Venom's solo comic run, but at some point they have very storied run-ins with each other. And to ignore that and to not have that is a wasted money-making opportunity.
Yeah, it's definitely a waste of a money-making chance. And it's part of who Venom is. Absolutely. His title right now is absolutely, I think, one of the best books you can buy currently. But Venom is not who he is without his connection to Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. So he is still always going to be lacking something, some intangible about who Venom is. I feel like is going to be missing until some sort of connection is established with Spider-Man. Is it going to be the same? No. Is Eddie Brock going to, be like faking a serial killer that he discovered who a serial killer is for Peter Parker as Spider-Man to out him as a fraud and, for literally having fake news at this point? No, they're not going to do that. So it's not going to be like the direct comic translation. It's not going to be like the 90s animated comic translation. But I do think they need to establish some sort of connection between Peter and the symbiote and Peter and Eddie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll have to see. Like I said, this has been an ongoing rumor for a while now, so nothing too no smoke yet, but we'll see. We'll have to see. So we're gonna get business news because this has direct implications on the MCU at that point. Let's see. Oh, Jay says, how do you think that they'd come into contact or come to blows? I like the idea that somehow if Doctor Strange is going to have some idea of bringing some multiverse issues into it, portal them in one way or another at that point. I think that's one way you can do it. What do you think, Brent?
I think they already take place on the same Earth.
Ah, I like that.
Because
Simple.
if Michael Keaton wasn't in the Morbius trailer, I would feel differently. But because he is, I think effectively Keaton is the out of story bridge between the two universes. And
Mhm.
I think we're just going to find out. I mean, think about it. Spider-Man stories all take place or mostly take place in and around New York. Where
Yep.
does Venom take place? Other side of the country. It's
Yep.
out in California, right?
Mhm.
So easy enough to do to have them separate. And I don't remember what story or what time Venom takes place in. Like, was it actually 2017 or whenever it came out, or did they ever say? It could easily take place effectively during the snap if they want to like direct continuity it.
Mhm.
But I mean, how about this? Spider-Man's outed. Maybe Hardy and maybe Tom Hardy's Venom goes after him. You know, I've definitely talked about Craven going after him. Maybe Venom goes after him.
Lethal protector, you know?
Yep.
If he's outed as a murderer at that point, he's got no other, just take him down at that point. Fanboy Clay says, I still think Tom Holland will fall into the Sony verse and fall right into Venom's lap. Jay says, what if they come to blows over them both crime fighting, but Venom kills, and that leads to Peter attempting to apprehend him? Very plausible.
Yeah,
Very, very
absolutely.
plausible at that point. In fact, that's basically, the first, I think that's one of the first runs of Lethal Protector is the idea of Venom trying to understand how he's going to exist. And, Spider-Man's trying to say, hey, well, I'll respect you, but you can't be doing this.
Yeah. I mean, if that happens, we will probably get the classic hero villain team up, like, or anti-hero hero fight, and then they team up and stuff. So I don't know. I don't want Sony making the movies, period. But I do want to see Spider-Man with Venom. And
yes.
My issues with the movie aside, it wasn't actually like Tom Hardy's portrayal. Like, he is a fine Venom. I have no complaints there. So I'm good with him in the role. It wouldn't be the first time I thought an actor or actress was good in a role. I just thought they were in not a good movie. Not unlike Electro. I'm good with seeing them team up. Good with seeing them fight, whatever the case may be. More accurately, probably both.
Yeah, it's again, I have confidence in new direction with Andy Serkis directing. I think Tom Hardy also went on record. He wasn't totally happy with the script at that point.
That was pretty clear.
So I think there's a lot more positive energy, at least from what we've heard from the set and filming at that point. Then, so we'll see at that point. Should have been rated R and bloody. Yeah, it I definitely can see that, but even that is the marketing for that didn't show that, at that point. It was going to be, I think, there's a difference between Joker and Venom at that point. And would I like to see an R-rated Venom? Yes. It's hard for me to believe that they could do that well in this environment. I don't know. What do you think, Brent?
This is where I say it could have been R-rated and bloody, but the vast majority of Venom's appearances across all medium have not taken place in an R-rated scenario. So, like, if you think, oh, we haven't seen this before, show me the R-rated. Okay, I get that. But if you are someone who thinks Venom, the character, doesn't work if he's not R-rated, then I would, say Exhibit A is like nearly every comic appearance he's ever had. Exhibit B is Spider-Man the Animated Series, and Exhibit C is the other Spider-Man series. He doesn't need to be R-rated, but he can be R-rated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he can be. So they definitely could do that. I don't think they've set a rating yet for Let There Be Carnage. Have you heard one?
No, they haven't, but it does, Jay, it could end up being Let There Be Carnage. It does have the potential for that. Wasn't the problem. Snell says, yeah, PG-13 wasn't the total problem with the film. Yeah, there were a lot of issues. I still enjoyed it. I know, Brent, you've had a little bit of, I wouldn't say full enjoyment, but I think you said it softened.
Softened. It can only disappoint me once. You can only let me down the first time. But every time I see it after that, I know what I'm getting into. So,
well, and I'll say this: it was definitely better than the what we got in the third Spider-Man. And being that the third Spider-Man movie did have a lot of problems, I think a lot of that Raimi's heart wasn't in it because he kind of got forced to put Venom in it. He went on record saying he didn't want Venom in that movie. That was not the movie he
Sure.
wanted. This was a
Though they still
studio.
did a lot of what happens in the comics with that.
Yes, they did.
They did a lot of it.
They did. It's just, Topher Grace just wasn't I think he was a good Eddie Brock. I don't think he was a good Venom.
Well, I mean, part of that I think was the CGI just wasn't there yet.
That's true too. I need to watch it again. If Fanboy says I need to watch it again, I haven't seen it since theaters. That's a lot of people. Hey, pandemic helps. You can definitely see that. That hasn't dropped.
Go.
Yep. So, all right. So let us head to a little bit of business news. Disney says its primary focus for entertainment is streaming and announces a major reorganization. Reason I thought this was a good point is that Travis and I talked about this in the last few, we've talked about this last few weeks. And also you and I have mentioned this, Brent, is that the big push now that the pandemic has basically taken out the MCU from theaters for this year and the first half of next year, this is how people are getting their content, and Disney is basically going all in. The quote from their new CEO, Bob Chapek, he says, given the incredible success of Disney Plus and our plans to accelerate our direct-to-consumer business, we are strategically positioning our company to more effectively support our growth strategy and increase shareholder value. Managing content creation distinct from distribution will allow us to become more effective and nimble in making content consumers want most delivered in a way they prefer to consume it. Our creative teams will concentrate on what they do best, making world-class franchise-based content, while our newly centralized global distribution team will focus on delivering and monetizing that content in the most optimal way across all platforms, including Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus, and the coming Star international streaming service. So that is a huge, basically, they throw down the gauntlet saying, this is where we're at. This is what we're going to be doing. We recognize that we have this golden goose here and we've done okay with it, but we can do better. We've seen how it can be do better. And that was one of the things Bob Iger was supposed to be overseeing, the revamping of Disney Plus and the fixing of Disney Plus before the pandemic occurred.
This is something we've talked about a lot on Fans. The market was already going streaming. For the most part. I think television was already there. If you talk to somebody about like the best shows on television from the last couple of years, most of the time their answer is going to be something that was a streaming show. It may not always be Netflix. Sometimes it may be Disney Plus or maybe HBO Max or Apple TV or what, but they're going to, more often than not, they're going to say streaming before they say something on, traditional network or even traditional cable outlets. The movies were going that way. The movies were already headed that way. There's another quote in there where they basically say this isn't necessarily a response to COVID, but it definitely was sped up because of COVID. Like they were already on this path. This just accelerated things. I know people are upset about the movie theaters. I get it. But frankly, to be super cold-hearted about it, from the studio's perspective, it doesn't matter because they still have an outlet that they can put their movies on. They still have an outlet that they can make TV shows for. They have a way to give us new content and to put it into our hands. Does it change some of the math? Yeah, it does change some of the math. I would not be at all surprised if someday we found out that some of the movies in Phase 4 had a lesser budget because of this, because they want to hedge on their bets in case they end up going straight to Disney Plus with it. But I mean, this is just the way it's going. Clay said, could this change their minds in releasing Black Widow? Yeah, absolutely. Their minds could. I mean, I know that Black Widow has a release date of May in 2021, but frankly, there is nothing that stops them from changing their minds, pulling a Mulan and doing premiere access, or doing what they're doing with Soul on Christmas Day and just dropping it straight if they want to. It's totally within their ability to do it. Can you imagine if they put Black Widow on there, the amount of signups they're going to get that they don't already have would be ridiculous. Tons of people would sign, and they don't have a free trial, so it's not like someone can just do it. They would get tons of signups just for Black Widow. Black Widow would be so much better than Mulan will.
Oh yeah,
And
you can't compare the two in Mulan's performance versus what Black Widow did. It's uncomparable. But again, it was a good way to do a proof of concept.
absolutely, it was a proof of concept. How much it worked, I don't know. I think that Investor Day. When did you tell me that was? December
December 10th.
10th. Okay, thank you. I think we'll find out.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get some good information because last investor call last year gave a lot of the slate for the ideas of what's going on.
Investor calls are awesome, but I'm just gonna put this out there. Like the last couple of years, investor calls have gotten more and more interesting. So it's like I've got this marked on my calendar. I'll definitely, when that day comes, be following along. Will I get to actually listen to it live? Probably not. I'll be at work, but I will definitely be following along as much as I can.
I'll get my invite because technically I'm an investor because I do own stock. So, so
My
I'll get my.
parents do too. I wonder if I could get
I
that.
usually get my notice for that. But like you, I may not be able to call in, but I will have that right. So, but yeah, Travis says, could an MCU film be made specifically for Disney Plus, even something not on the slate, such as say Daredevil, etc.? I think that's definitely a very strong possibility, considering the very strong language Chapek said about their direction of this. You know, the push and pull, as I think the Hollywood Reporter article goes into, is the premiere of WandaVision is a good example of how Disney Plus is being careful in terms of confirming an official release date for the show. There's a chance that the studio is still studying if releasing a major show like WandaVision alongside The Mandalorian could produce good numbers for Disney Plus, or it could have a negative effect. At any rate, Disney Plus is a top priority. It is where they can make up different ways. It's not at Netflix level, and it takes a very long time for what Netflix to become Netflix, but they are doing what a lot of people are saying, that this is what Warner Media should be doing with HBO Max. They should throw down that gauntlet as well.
Yeah, and the big difference there is, and I'm at the front of the line of saying HBO Max needs to be full steam ahead. They need to be doing this stuff, but they got to go global first. They got to go global. Like 57, he's stuck watching the HBO Max stuff on Crave TV or whatever that's called up there in Canada. I don't know, 57 Snell, one of you help me out there, but they got to go global right now. Disney Plus is the only one of these services that has both the numbers they have and are global. Asterisk next to Apple TV Plus, just because, yes, they're global, but nobody's paying for it yet. Everybody has free Apple TV Plus. If they bought a phone, an Apple TV, a Mac, an iPad last year, they still have it for free.
And they just said they're extending it till 3 more months from when you signed up.
February, I think. Yeah. And so, which is great because Apple TV Plus has several great shows. I'm going to throw out Defending Jacob, starring Captain America himself. If you haven't seen it, wonderful show. A little heavy, but you should definitely.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's saying wonderful at that point. My wife and I just watched it, but it was impressive.
Yeah. So, and nobody goes worldwide the way Apple does with this stuff, but Disney Plus is worldwide at this point. Are they in every single market? No, they're not. That's why you're still going to find out. We're going to find out about probably another good subscriber jump in December at this Investor Day. But it is a huge advantage. HBO Max needs to get there. They have other issues they need to work through, including tons of licensing deals that are out there. That they have, I think, way more licensing deals they're stuck with than what Disney has. Yeah, Disney inherited some from Fox, but whatever. They're willing to let those ride. They, Dark Phoenix can hang out on HBO Max in the meantime, but they'll get it back eventually. But I mean, this is the way, right? Going to streaming. This is definitely the way things are headed. For one, I don't want movie theaters to go away.
I agree.
But I want to see movies. I want to watch this stuff, and I don't want to have to wait until everybody thinks we're suddenly back to a 2019 and earlier marketplace again, because that's not happening anytime soon.
No, it's not. And when did I forget? When was the premiere of Disney Plus? Was it October or November? I want to say it's October.
It was in November last year with The Mandalorian.
Okay, so you're gonna get a few episodes if everyone joined under that date for their so many free trials were going around. If you're paying for this or different ways, like so many different ways you could have got this free trial. I think you said that you did the 3-year
Oh yeah,
founders.
yeah.
So us that are under, like my wife got a new phone, and so Verizon had the deal. So I'm only paying a penny right now until November. So, but for those people, you get a little taste of Mandalorian, and if you want to continue, man, that don't tell me that wasn't planned to drop it to make people continue on at least for another month or two to finish Mandalorian.
Of course it was. Absolutely it was. And it's a good move. And, we're going to have WandaVision rolling out, possibly some overlap with Mandalorian, possibly not. That's still technically in the rumor category. And then, of course, we've got Soul coming on Christmas Day. Like the next few months on Disney Plus are going to be awesome.
Yep. And it's a great way to say, hey, stay signed up if you want to not just finish out Mandalorian, but we've got WandaVision coming at you. We got your MCU for you if you can't see it in theaters. So we'll just have to wait and see. And definitely when that investor calls comes up, we will be covering that in lots of detail on this show. So our next story, Natalie Portman seems to reveal her Marvel character has cancer in Thor: Love and Thunder. So this is a big confirmation that, we already knew Natalie Portman was going to be playing the mighty Thor at that point, Jane Foster, but we didn't know how accurate it was going to be. And she's basically giving an interview with Yahoo, and she says, I can't tell you much, but I'm really excited. I'm starting to train to get muscles. If there can be these all female superheroes, the more of them they are, the better it is. I'm trying to think. It's based on the graphic novel of the mighty Thor. She's going through cancer treatment and is a superhero on the side. So I'm very happy about that confirmation, because that run. There's another one that blew me away at that point. And what makes that character interesting of Jane Foster, not only just being the mighty Thor, and background of this one, at some point there's a storyline called Original Sin, and at some point during that run, Thor is whispered something at that point that reveals, and at that point Mjolnir, he is unworthy to wield him. And it ends up being, all we see for the first issue or two is a female now is wielding Mjolnir. And then it's revealed that it's Jane Foster. But when she transforms back into Jane Foster, she's going through cancer. And the real interesting thing is, even though she's going through the cancer treatments, when she transforms into the mighty Thor, cancer is gone. When she transforms back, she still has the cancer, and all her chemotherapy treatments are gone. So it's basically transforming to Thor, and transforming back is killing her faster.
Right. So superheroes put their lives on the lines every single story with them, right? It's super common. But every time she does it, she's literally killing herself faster because of that, because she's not allowing the cancer treatments, the chemo, to do its work. When she becomes the mighty Thor, it treats the chemo as what it is, like this hostile invader, and it wipes it out and the cancer. But unfortunately, it all comes back. So it's not some like permanent cure all for her. Absolutely great, impeccable storytelling by Jason Aaron in that run. I mean, Jason Aaron's entire Thor run is definitely worth your time if you've never read it. But at least for me, the highlight is the mighty Thor. And I'd kind of heard some speculation of, would they avoid the cancer part of the storyline in the wake of Chadwick Boseman's death? And I'm glad to see it sounds like that's not the plan. I mean, cancer is obviously a very real thing. I don't think they need to avoid it just because of that. But I get where that speculation was coming. To me, it's such an important part of who she was as Mighty Thor, because every single time that's who she was hurting herself, no matter how big or how small the danger was. If she suits up, she's killing herself.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. And like you said, I'm glad for the acknowledgement, because a lot of times we find, some people aren't fans of Taika's take on Thor, and it's going to be interesting at that point. But again, it's Chris Hemsworth said he's enjoyed it more with this take than he did before. So we'll see, but I'm glad it's being honored. And I doubt that if this wasn't true, she wouldn't be saying it. Jay saying, what hammer will she get since there's no Mjolnir in the main universe? Multiverse.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, but I mean, with the it's worth noting that other hammers have been made before that with the same like Stormbreaker in the comics is another hammer with
Mhm.
the same properties. Obviously, Stormbreaker in the movies is different. That was created by Odin, and Odin's not around anymore. Other hammers can be created, so I don't think that's too big of a deal. But I mean, this is coming out after all the multiverse stuff. Who knows what Loki's
Uh,
involvement will be? It's to me, it's not too hard to think that they'll get another hammer.
Yeah, it could be a interesting thing, a result of the snap. I know Snap took out Life, but again, we don't know what even further ramifications of it at that point. So, isn't there a hammer? Isn't there a Kimball would say, isn't there a hammer maker in Asgard in the comics? Yes, there is. At that point,
I think
that's
that's still Eitri, right?
yeah, it's Eitri. So he is still, as far as we know, he's still in existence. So that was
Yeah,
that was actually one of my theories of what was going to happen in Endgame. He was going to be brought back into it and creating a new gauntlet to get the stones. So that didn't happen.
yeah. I mean, Eitri should definitely be around still. There's no reason he wouldn't be. I mean, even if he got snapped, he'd be back from the blip. So
Yep, exactly.
he's
So
just in the MCU. He's just not literally in Asgard.
yeah. All right. So next story, it's kind of an interesting one. I caught this on IGN. There was New York Comic Con this past weekend, and there's a new book coming out called X-Men: The Art and Making of the Animated Series. Outstanding, amazing show. But they caught up with the creators at that point before they were doing a panel and asked a few questions, and I put it in our rundown because I thought some of the things they were saying and reflecting back on this show would be interesting. And I know, Brent, you were and still are a huge fan of the series.
Oh, absolutely. I still think this is the heyday. I mean, this Spider-Man, Batman, and Superman. That's when the comics shows to me are never going to match that era.
Oh yeah. So, in looking at the Forgotten X-Men cartoon Pride of the X-Men at that point, they said, many of the same creative artists were central to making both Pride of the X-Men and X-Men the Animated Series. They said that Pride was designed beautifully. The key difference was the executives making decisions in our show, Fox Kids TV, had the final say. They wanted great human stories, confident that related to sales would follow. The writing staff shared their vision, no agenda other than creating the most dramatic animated TV we could write. So I do remember that. I remember I got that free in when I ordered Pizza Hut. I think I still had that VHS tape as well.
Pride of the X-Men.
Yeah, Pride of the X-Men.
I have it right over there. I could get it.
Oh, nice.
Now I'm going to hang on.
Oh, hang on. We're gonna get the evidence.
Right there. When my basement flooded and I found a box of VHS tapes,
Nice.
I kept one of the Flesher Superman ones, and I kept Pride of the X-Men. See, X-Men, it's the actual thing. I've watched it once in the last few years on YouTube.
Yes.
That opening song is way better than it has any right to be. And two, I really like Pride of the I've always liked Pride of the X-Men. I would love to see more of that. If they wanted to like create more of those, I would love that.
It you can definitely, if you've never seen it, give it a watch on YouTube. It's not too terribly long, but it was another one. I like saying this to show proof of concept that X-Men can do a great job being an animated cartoon. So they went into the idea of choosing our cast. They said the original core cast, Cyclops, Rogue, Storm, Jubilee, Wolverine, and Gambit, was a group decision among Marvel Comics, Fox TV, and the creative staff. Jubilee and Gambit were new characters that Marvel wanted to push. The others were more established. Amazingly, Jean, Xavier, and Beast were considered secondary. Use if we want to, they added. That is why Beast was stuck in prison at first. We started out thinking of him as an occasional character. But as Eric and Mark Edens fashioned the first season of 13 Stories, Jean, Xavier, and Beast kept on asserting themselves. They found it hard to tell a compelling X-Men story without their founder, father figure, and spokesperson, Xavier. Jean seemed to have a unique relationship with everyone else on the team. Beast was simply great fun to write for. So we ended up with 9 instead of 6. 10, actually, if you include Morph.
This one's for you, Morph.
Yes.
I love that run so much. I tried to get my 4-year-old to watch it with me the other day. We're browsing Disney Plus. I'm like, what about this? You haven't, there's Wolverine. He's in one of your books, but no, he wanted no part of it. I'm still
Yeah.
working on him.
Yeah, you're right, Fanboy Clay. R.I.P. Norm Spencer, one of the great voice
Absolutely.
actors on this. They did ask the idea of why the core X-Men didn't kind of change, and they said that fluid casts tend not to work for TV. Guest characters, yes, it was fun showcasing Colossus, Iceman, or Nightcrawler in a few episodes, but audiences don't want any of the 6 Friends characters to change, even after 250 episodes. We did have one episode where no X-Men appeared, the historical origin of Sinister story, starring Xavier's grandfather. That was an interesting one. I remember that.
Colossus, Iceman, and Nightcrawler, 3 of my favorite X characters. So I loved it when those guys showed up.
Yeah, and especially when it got strange when the later seasons we brought in Captain America and others at that point saying, oh man, this world actually exists. They go into the idea of how they stayed faithful, why they stayed faithful to comics, and how much they did stay faithful. They said it was certainly a challenge. The books at the time were they think it was furiously R-rated, fight fests among super beings. Children's broadcast television had traditionally been increasingly restrictive. No hitting each other, no blood, no realistic weapons, nothing remotely sexual. Don't even mention death. So we were lucky that in Fox TV had the final say on that. And the 3 executives not only knew, but they loved the books and they loved the intense character stories as well. They let us have Wolverine spend an episode struggling with the sense of God, as writers have learned to get past the language at that point. It worked to be a true spirit of the source material. We tried to maintain the drama with the emotional intensity. People scream at each other's names a lot, but in the end, the best stories were about the characters, not the violence.
Yeah, I mean that sounds. I mean that's exactly as the show as I remember it. So
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense because like you had a lot of times with robots getting taken out and
Sentinels.
yep. So again, the violence was done for a TV audience. And then the final question they ask is, will there be a season 6? It says, in our corner of animated TV in the 1990s, plans for further seasons were never in the control of the creative staff. In the writing and the design that was completed months before, and hand animated episodes were done. When we finished writing and drawing the 5th year of X-Men, we all were off working on new shows before the first episode of season 5 aired. Since then, hundreds of fans at Comic-Cons, online, and podcasts have asked if we have an idea for season 6. The rumor is purely fan wishful thinking, never pushed by us. While we would love to do another season, that decision is in someone else's hands. And so the book that they're promoting, X-Men, The Art of Making the Animated Series, released this Tuesday, October 13th, and you can find it at all major booksellers.
I hope they do another season. I would love that. I don't think it's going to happen though.
No, I don't at that point. But I like that I like that we have it on Disney Plus. I like, I'm doing a slow rewatch of it, but I got 20 minutes. I'm putting on X-Men. It's nostalgia at that point. So before we get to our next story, looking at Mr. MODOK, we're going to take another ad break. And so we are doing these ad breaks to, as you put it, to keep the web fluid flowing through Spider-Man at that point. Because we're not flowing through him physically. We're going to go with the web gauntlets at that point, the web shooters.
Always mechanical.
Always mechanical. And so again, we don't get to choose what ads come on, but they could be a bit loud. So I'm going to give you a 3 count in order to turn your volume down. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we're back. So, all right. So this was an interesting one. We've heard about the MODOK show. We heard it was surprisingly still a thing.
Yeah.
And we knew that Patton Oswalt was not just involved, he was playing the title role at that point. And we got our first look. EW released the first images and what this show's about. And we have a MODOK show that is stop motion animation, stop capture animation. Wow.
I mean, well, this show is something. Did you see any of the clips of it that came out from Comic-Con, from New York
No,
Comic-Con?
no, not yet. I haven't.
I saw about 20 seconds of one because then I got interrupted with something. I was at work, so whatever. I will just say I intend to try this show out. I I don't think it's going to be for me, but it looks ridiculous, and I wouldn't at all be surprised if this ended up being like an unexpected sleeper hit, not unlike like say Harley Quinn, for example, the animated show Harley Quinn, which people just adore. I don't know. I have a feeling like this one might work, and it's so totally different than everything else Marvel that it's not
Yes.
really. It's not going to cause any confusion, and it does help get MODOK's name out there so that MODOK can be cast. So, for live action.
And unlike a previous Hulu show that we talked about a couple of episodes back, this one has the Marvel name on it. So Marvel's not shying away from this, nor are they shying away from the idea that this is their first stint into adult animated comedy, as EW puts it. So I do want to mention, yes, this is a show, maybe not MCU proper, but Marvel's putting out a show that MODOK is not part of the Marvel universe, Marvel movie universe, at that point, just like Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel. Am I missing anyone?
I don't know, probably.
Just putting that out there to our DCA brothers at that point. Just want to make sure that Marvel's not just relying on their movie franchises at that point.
Yeah.
But it's interesting just because the idea is like, what does Patton Oswalt said, like, does he go home to a house? Does he have a family? What does he do after he murders and kills and maims things? So the idea about this is he has a wife, he has a son, he has a daughter. The daughter looks strangely like him. But apparently he has not done too well. He's not a good father or husband. He's run AIM into the ground. And his AIM has been taken over by a Silicon Valley company named Grumble. And so his quote unquote like antagonist of the show is his new kind of boss at that point. But they're going to let MODOK continue as he's doing. But, killing henchmen on a whim and fighting the Avengers, is going to have some HR stuff involved.
You can't just do. Of course it will.
He says if you're making a show about supervillains, you have to figure out something more evil for them to face. So corporations is what we're doing, is more evil than your standard evil villains, which is interesting.
I'm looking at these pictures right now of MODOK, and I do kind of want a Funko Pop of one of these.
It's a definition of a Funko Pop at that point.
It's already there.
It's very, very interesting in the sense of, MODOK's having a moment. He's the main antagonist in the main part of the Avengers game. He's got this show. We've heard lots of rumors spinning around. Could he, I know we've already said Kang is going to be part of, the Ant-Man 3, but we've also heard Kang might be a part of it. Not Kang, Kang is part of it. MODOK is a part of it at that point. So he's kind of having a moment. And again, this is another show that was too far into production to kind of stop. But again, Marvel is putting their name in front of it. I'm not saying it's MCU MODOK, but it says something that they're still willing to put their name in front of it, being also it's a quote unquote adult animated show.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. It's just too strange not to at least try.
It's weird. It's really weird. All I do is every time I'm like, this is just weird, but sometimes weird can be awesome, and maybe that's what this will be.
Yeah, they said, we'll see the big battles and the big fights. It's a huge sci-fi Marvel Universe show, but we thought it would be really funny to see MODOK dealing with water cooler gossip at AIM, shot in this very handheld style, and make it feel like you're working at AIM alongside him in the same with his family too. It's kind of a little inspired things like Modern Family and The Office, where it just makes you feel like you're part of the group in the show.
Clay in the chat. Mark Hamill from MODOK. Yes, I can definitely see it. I love it. Mark Hamill from MODOK. That'd be awesome. And it feels like something he'd be willing to do.
It would be. But I remember if Mr. Snell's still in the chat, he may not be at this point, but he's been very adamant of saying, like, you have to cast MODOK correctly because it's that voice. And the man of 1,000 voices, Mr. Hamill, possibly could do it. I'd have to see his take on it. That doesn't sound too much like the Joker.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd live with hearing the Joker's voice out of MODOK for that. I think that's great casting. I love the idea. I love the idea.
It would be interesting. So, all right. So we'll wait and see. I didn't copy down a premiere date for this. Do you remember or catch when it was
I
coming
don't think
out?
they've said one yet.
Okay.
I don't think they've revealed it.
Well, the good thing it does exist. We've seen images. You've seen a little bit of a clip or two. So it's basically we're just waiting for it to drop. So if Hailstorm,
no premiere date yet.
no premiere date, but they got to wait for the juggernaut of Hellstrom to finish up. I'm guaranteeing.
If you Google premiere date or if you Google MODOK and New York Comic Con, I think you can find their panel and scrub through that, and there was a clip in there.
Gotcha. So check that. I'll definitely check that out tomorrow. Last two stories, little small ones. Mark Ruffalo still thinks he's going to get thrown out of the MCU.
Sure he does. Very humble man, Mark Ruffalo.
Very much so. I mean, when you kind of release, leave your cell phone on and release some of the first couple of minutes of Thor Ragnarok, yeah, you might wonder at that point. And then the supposedly giving away the big reveal at the end of Infinity War of everyone dying. That whole Don Cheadle, don't tell me that wasn't planned. That came off too well planned.
Yeah, I don't believe most of those are actually accidents. I mean, the Instagram one with Thor Ragnarok one, that one I do believe was an accident, but not the Don Cheadle one with that. But I mean,
but Don Cheadle sold it. That was pretty.
Sure. I mean, he's an actor. Yeah. I mean, but you know what, Ruffalo, he's just being humble, and yes. I'm okay. I'm good with that. I did kind of snicker at this when I saw it, but.
Yeah, he says, every time I'm whining, like, God darn it, how long are we waiting for the setup? And I'm like, hey, remember, you're not even supposed to be here. Right. I remember I'm supposed to be grateful because I still can't believe it. I still keep thinking they're going to throw me out of the club. I'd never belonged here in the first place. And they're all going to find that out because, again, Mark Ruffalo was a very much established actor, but he, his film choices were very much all drama. He does in a lot of plays at that point. So when he was cast, a lot of people just said, well, maybe, sure. But, like you said, he's just being very humble. And for the past two new castings, he's been, as you put it, the Marvel MCU's welcome wagon.
That's right. Absolutely. So
I don't think he's going anywhere. Like you said, we're just being humble. And our last little story, Marvel Shang-Chi adds Jackie Chan stunt team member Andy Cheng to the crew. And looking at the Doctor Strange actor and martial artist Scott Adkins recently sat down with Jackie Chan's stunt team member Andy Cheng to talk about his remarkable career. During the start of the interview, he did confirm that he is currently in Sydney doing work for Marvel Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So, again, outstanding pedigree. Anyone that works with Jackie Chan and as part of his main kind of stunt team, obviously, we already knew this is going to be in my opinion, this is their big kind of Guardians of the Galaxy kind of who are the Guardians? Who is Shang-Chi? At that point. So the fact that they are doing as much to get the pedigree of actors, the pedigree of the stuntmen. I mean, they've even said like how the training videos we've seen that have leaked out are pretty impressive along themselves. So that's great. I mean, if you're going to get anyone who's on Jackie Chan's stunt team, that's who you need to get for these kind of movies.
No, that's fantastic. Absolutely. I was definitely excited to see that. I'm Jackie Chan stunts are such a blast to watch. So anyone who's worked on those with him, yes, please.
Yes. More. So, all right. So that is all the news at that point. So let me I've got to pull up our banner Factor Fictions this week. And as Brent's getting ready for his Factor Fictions. So let me pull those up. Let's see. All right. So first Factor Fiction. The introduction of Blade and Moon Knight into the MCU will lay the groundwork for the reintroduction of Daredevil and Ghost Rider to the MCU and a new version of the Midnight Suns. 93% fact, 7% fiction. That was 100%. I want to know who the person is that voted no.
Reveal yourself.
It was you, Travis. I know it. This was your coming back. This is you striking back because you can't be on the show right now. So I think you were a fact as well, Brent, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken. The next one was nope, that's the final one. Second one was Spider-Man. This is where I was really reaching, but I still like it. Spider-Man will eventually tackle the clone saga in the movies, but instead of Peter, it'll be Miles wrestling with if he or is not the clone. This is where we will see our first live introduction of Ben Reilly. 13% fact, 87% fiction. Yeah, I knew that's a long shot. I said it was fiction, but it's fun to think about.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is, but it's definitely a reach.
I mean, come on. We I just got this in the mail, so we got the end of the Ben Reilly run.
All right, that what that cover is depicting is one of the 2 times I stopped reading Spider-Man comics for a while.
All right, so then our final one. This was the X-Men one. Here we go. The second X-Men trilogy will focus on an adaptation of Age of Apocalypse storyline. 31% fact, 69% fiction. Tony at Waltgator 93 had a comment to it saying there's so many X-Men stories to tell. Can't see this as a third trilogy dealing with this, not the second. I can see that too. Again, you maybe you want 2 trilogies to really delve into the X-Men stuff before we go crazy.
Yeah, I think so.
So, all right. So, Brent, hit me with your fact or fictions.
Well, I got several. I'm just going to say off the bat, the Miles Morales story earlier killed one of them because I was going to say when we see him, he will be in the MCU as opposed to the SPUMC. But I'm not going to say that now. It doesn't count because it looks like at least those early rumors. So what I am going to start with is related to the Scarlet Witch. She is going to be retconned to include her mutant origins. The Mind Stone will be said to have simply activated her mutant powers or maybe enhanced them as opposed to creating them as is the current understanding.
Yeah, I think that's I could definitely see that as being fact. It is always interesting at that point, the going back and forth with Wanda and the what did they term them in Age of Ultron? Enhanced at that point. So, yep, I think we've always said like enhanced is their way of getting away with not saying mutants. So, yeah, I think that's what our friend Greg would say. We may get a reverse House of M through that idea. So, yeah, I'll say fact.
Maybe. I think it's a fact. I wouldn't at all be surprised for the presumed Agatha Harkness character in WandaVision to at some point say to her, you think you got your powers from a stone? And that kind of just starts the ball rolling, tips over the first domino along that.
Yeah. So, all right. What's your next one?
Ant-Man 3 will feature Cassie shooting up his stature.
I will go very much fact on that. I think stuff we've talked about with the very strong ideas that we could be building towards what you and I have talked about and Travis saying it's Young Avengers / champions leaning towards champions at that point. We got stature, we've got Miss Marvel, Miles, we've got tons of different ideas. We've got the possibility of the twins in WandaVision, see if that actually becomes true. So lots of things are building towards it. I could definitely see that being a part of Ant-Man 3.
Yep. Co-sign everything you just said on that one.
Gotcha. And what is your final one?
Okay. My final one. We will see Tom Holland have an appearance on Disney Plus.
Any show in particular?
Any show
in particular?
Tom Holland will show up in a Disney Plus Marvel MCU show, just to be clear.
So
Peter Parker will show up.
Announced or any show, not announced or unannounced.
Yeah, I think we will see him at some point. Tom Holland will have shot a scene as Peter Parker for a Disney Plus show.
Yeah, why not? Sure. It would that now the question is, would that be the fulfillment of his obligation?
No. I'm gonna say it's an extension of. I do think it will eventually happen. I'm going to come down on the side of fact, but I'm not like slam dunk, no question, automatic. Yes. I mean, If not 50-50, let's call it like 60-40. I think the chances are of it actually happening at some point.
Yeah, it's definitely a strong thing. So I'll say fact, but like you said, it's not a strong fact. Fanboy Clay is going Miss Marvel calling it. So hey, sure.
Yes, please.
Yes, exactly. All right. So we have no comic book club this week, but Brent and I have something different for that. But we have some results. We now have a determined winner for our next comic book club that will officially start next week. And the winner between the Battle of Secret Invasion and Cosmic Ghost Rider with a vote of 62 to 38, we will be reading Cosmic Ghost Rider. So
Excellent work,
yay.
listeners. Excellent work. I'm very proud of all of you. You made the right choice.
Yes, at that point. So Cosmic Ghost Rider will be starting next week. We'll be reading issue by issue since it's a shorter run. I believe it is 6 issues, if my memory serves. This is on Marvel Unlimited. It is not. I didn't check today to see if it had gone Comixology Unlimited, but you can purchase the issues. They are very affordable. I think you can purchase the full quote unquote graphic novel, I think for either $6 or $7. And if you're going to purchase it, wait till the weekend, wait till Friday, because they always drop their big sales of everything. So you might get a couple of bucks off at that point. I just got a comic that I'm going to be recording with actually Fanboy Clay for a couple extra bucks off of what we're going to be covering tomorrow night. So but yeah, so very excited. I've been always praising praising the Cosmic Ghost Rider run. So hopefully, listeners, you'll be reading along with us and looking at our hot takes on Cosmic Ghost Rider. So
Yes. I'm looking forward to those discussions.
So yeah, so since we don't have a comic book corner this week, Brent had posed a question to Travis and I to as a discussion point. So for future at that point, but I figured with him coming on, this would be a good time to maybe do this since we weren't doing comic book corner this week. And we talked about it last week. Brent, why don't you kind of review what we're going to be doing for the end of the show?
So basically, we're going to give our top 5 favorite Marvel scenes that are not based around action, not an action scene. Maybe there's just a glimpse of action in it or something, but the focus of the scene is not just a fight scene. So the airport battle in Civil War is not eligible. That is a fight scene, not eligible. Trying to think of an example of one that would be maybe.
I think you had said that. I think Travis Hines used the example last week of Baby Groot dancing around while the fight's going around him.
Yeah, that's one I've given before when I've talked about this concept. So yeah, there's action technically in that scene, but it's all in the background. It's not part of it. The focus of that story is definitely Groot dancing and jamming out there. So the initial idea had been MCU. You wanted to say something that I'm going to say is not technically MCU. So we're just going to expand it. Marvel live action. You give us your list. I assume we're going to start with 5 and work our way to our favorite one.
Yep. You being our guest host, why don't you go first for 5?
Okay, number 5, actually the scene that has made me think about this concept is from Age of Ultron, the pep talk between Hawkeye and Wanda.
All right.
He tells her, you go out, not a direct quote, but you go out that door and you fight. You are an Avenger. If you stay in here, whatever, I'll have your brother get you, but you're an Avenger. And then he goes off and fights. Actually, in the middle of that, he shoots an arrow through the wall. So technically an action beat in the middle of that. I love that pep talk between them. And I feel like that was like an establishment of a relationship that Clint and Wanda have that we saw continue through Civil War. And then again, after the funeral scene in Endgame, really great scene. And for being honest, Hawkeye doesn't have a ton of great scenes in those first couple Avengers movies. His best work definitely, I think, came later and probably in Endgame, actually. But that scene, I think that is an awesome scene with those two.
Travis has a pick. Travis Snell has a pick in there. Peter and Aunt May getting ready for prom.
Wonderful choice,
yes,
Travis.
Yes,
wonderful choice.
Plus the Vulture is the dad reveal are some great. Yes, very good. That was definitely on my list, but it didn't reach my top 5. So no,
luckily rankings they can always change. It's just today's answers. Today's
answers. No, I think that is a great choice at that point. My number 5 is Far From Home, Happy's and Peter's Happy giving Peter a pep talk in Far From Home.
Yes.
a lot of these, when I broached this as, what we were going to be doing at some point last week or this week, at that point, I got, YouTube's a wonderful thing. I can rewatch these scenes and say, yeah, I think that this is on my list. I had a whole bunch of ones I could have chosen from, and I know you've got a list of 16 or 17.
Yeah. I've got my list is much longer than the 5 we're going to talk about here.
But I do like it because it's a moment. This movie has been him taking ownership of the idea that as he says, he's telling, Happy, he said, don't tell me to relax. How can I relax when I've messed up so bad? I trusted Beck. I thought he was my friend, and Mr. Stark left his glasses behind for me, and now he's going to kill all my friends. And he just says, I just miss him. And Happy says, yeah, I miss him too. And everywhere I go, I see his face and who's going to be the next Iron Man. And I think this is one of the best lines that Happy says. He says, you're not Iron Man. You're never going to be Iron Man. Nobody could live up to Tony, not even Tony. Tony was my best friend, and he was a mess. He second guessed everything he did. He was all over the place. The one thing that he did that he didn't second guess was picking you. I don't think Tony would have done what he did if he didn't know you were going to be here after he was gone. Your friends are in trouble. You're all alone. The tech is missing. What are you going to do about it?
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
So looking at the chat right now, Fanboy Clay, the Spider-Man memes that were created out of the speech were glorious. Of all my favorites is Ultron, the party scene. Travis Snell says the Hawkeye speech. Oh, Fanboy says the Hawkeye speech at that point. And Tony's goodbye to his dad in Endgame. Beautiful scene. Yes, that is also a good one to choose. So your number 4.
Number 4 does come from Endgame, but it's not the one that Travis just mentioned. It's actually the passing of the shield between Steve and Sam. When Steve hands it to him and says, how's it feel? And Sam just says, like it's someone else. The look on his face when Steve goes, well, it isn't someone else's. Beautiful scene, super touching. And I love the story behind that, when Chris Evans actually accidentally basically was the one who told Mackie about this, that this was going to be the one that happened. Like, he didn't necessarily mean to bring it up when it did, but then when it happened, he kind of let part of those beans spill. He went ahead and said, okay, well, here, come read this. And I love that he got to tell him, both for real and in the movie, he's the next Captain America. Love it.
Yeah, no, that is a great scene. It was it was one I was hoping we would see one day at that point. And when I saw the way those endings was going, I said, okay, it's going to happen. We're going to get it. This is going to happen. So yeah, great choice. My number 4 is Black Panther. T'Challa visits the ancestral plane for the second time. It is simply called You Were Wrong. And so, the context for this is that he is come back to life. He is seeing his father after everything. Killmonger is now taken the quote unquote crown. He is the new Black Panther, and he's realizing what his father did, abandoning Killmonger and basically kind of, holding him responsible for, you created this, and he goes up to, powerful scene telling his father, you were wrong. All of you were wrong to turn your backs on the rest of the world. We let the fear of discovery stop us from doing what is right. No more. I cannot stay here with you. I cannot rest here while he sits on the throne. He is a monster of our own making. I must take the mantle back. I must right these wrongs. Very simple, very quick scene, but powerful, because he was even already having in the film conflicts with just staying isolated. You could see that throughout the film, and Killmonger brings it to light. He is one of the true antagonists of the MCU and one of the best villains we have seen. Yeah,
that is such a powerful moment. Great moment there. I mean, the whole movie, T'Challa is like trying to reconcile the fact that it's like part of him agrees with Killmonger, not his methods, but his goals. And just that whole scene, you picked an excellent one there. Not one so far. We don't have any from even the same movie. I'm betting we will before it's over. But yeah. I'm very curious to know if we're going to end up with any of the same ones. But even just looking at like all the ones that they mentioned in the chats, like there are so many good scenes, and that's just 23 movies, of course. But all right, number 3 for me is from Captain America: Civil War.
All right,
and it is the scene that introduces Peter Parker to the MCU. You get that big Queen's massively, ridiculously oversized type. And I still had such a smile on my face that whole scene. You got just Peter, and we meet Peter, we meet Aunt May. Peter gets to meet Tony Stark, and then they finally Tony starts to wear down Peter's like, I know you're Spider-Man. You're Spider-Man. This is you. Here's a clip. And he finally is just like, why are you doing it? And it boiled down to when you can do the things that I can, but you don't. And then the bad things happen. They happen because of you. In Peter Parker's very first scene in the MCU, they gave us with great power comes great responsibility. They just changed the phrasing of it, but they gave us the sentiment behind it, the core of who Spider-Man is. When you can do the things that I can, but you don't, and then the bad things happen, they happen because of you. It's right there in his very first scene in the franchise.
Yeah, no, that was, even though they revealed it in the trailer, it was a great reveal, and I don't think it ruined the rest of the moments for his introduction. I think it was, it's one of those things like, oh, why'd you reveal that? It's a good thing. We already knew he was going to be in it. We just didn't know how at that point. So, but what a great way and a great introduction. And like, nothing can beat like Under Ruse.
Under Ruse. Yep.
Or remember that, hey guys, remember that movie where the walking things?
Yeah.
Oh, Peter and his movies and his incorrect pop culture references.
Pop culture references, yep. No more pop culture references from me. All right, what do you got for number 3?
My number 3 was what we changed, what led to the change of instead of MCU, and that is Daredevil, the season 3 series finale, I Beat You. Matt has just basically given Kingpin a beatdown of all beatdowns at that point, and Wilson Fisk is asking, he's telling him, end it, do it. You want to. And Matt goes, you want me to kill you. And Fisk goes, no prison can keep me. You know that. Come on, kill me. And Matt screams, no, God knows I want to, but you don't get to destroy who I am. You will go back to prison. You will live the rest of your miserable life in a cage, knowing you'll never have Vanessa, that this city rejected you. It beat you. I beat you. You'll keep my secret and you won't harm Karen Page or Foggy Nelson or anyone else. Because if you do, I will go after your wife and I will prove Vanessa ordered the murder of Agent Ray Nadim. And like her husband, she'll spend the rest of her life in a cell. I love that. That is the height of that series, that scene. And it was just Charlie Cox, was outstanding in the role. And that was like, there's your Emmy nomination right there. Just the arc he had gone through in 3 seasons.
That is the finest moment between Daredevil and Kingpin in those 3 seasons. The finest moment is right there. Him screaming, I beat you. And yeah, it's right after they were just fighting and stuff. But like you had said, is this one going to count? I'm like, yeah, I think it does count, because at that point, the fighting is done. Now it's all about the mind game, the letting him know, I didn't just beat you physically, but I just beat you in every way. You're not going to get Vanessa. You're defeated. The city rejected you. I haven't seen that since. It's been a long time since I've watched that, but like just hearing the quotes again makes me want to pull that episode back up and rewatch that scene. And did you rewatch it before this?
I knew the scene and I just had to rewatch that scene, and then now you're saying I just got to rewatch the entire series.
So good.
All right, so this is where I'm wondering if we're going to have any of the similar. So what is your number 2?
All right, comes from Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
All right.
And my number 1 and 2, they flip-flop so much, but right now this is how I'm feeling. This is the speech that he gives at the end over the PA, over the intercom to S.H.I.E.L.D., saying, hey, that guy next to you, they could be Hydra. And he ends it with, the price of freedom is high. It always has been. And if I'm the only one, so be it. It's a price I'm willing to pay. And if I'm the only one, so be it. But I'm willing to bet I'm not. And then, of course, Falcon comes in. Did you write that down? Did you practice that first?
Yeah.
Great little moment there. But the whole speech of Steve explaining that, I know some of you have been hunting me, but I'm not the bad guy here. Hydra has infiltrated. And all the while, like, cutting between different Hydra agents and Shield agents as they're starting to realize that, you know, the jig is up, that everybody's about to get outed. It is my favorite Captain America speech, no question, from the entire MCU. Like he is. I mean, I could do a top 5 great moments just from him, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
But this moment would always be among that list. I adore this moment.
Oh yeah, that I have considered it. It is not my choice though. It is not. I did have to think about it, but I found I think my top one is something just a little bit better. My number 2 is kind of a twofer because I think the scene itself, it's a scene you can't have the first part without mentioning the second part of it.
Okay.
And that is Age of Ultron, Captain America and Tony and Nick Fury, the scene on the farm. You know, we've got Tony and Steve, basically they're coming at odds. They've been basically, the whole team's been taken apart by Ultron. And you know, Steve and Tony are chopping wood on Clint's farm. And you know, Tony says, you know, Ultron's trying to tear us apart, right? And Steve goes, well, I guess, you know, whether you tell us is a bit of a question. And Tony goes, Banner and I were doing research. And Steve goes, that would affect the team. And Tony goes, that would end the team. Isn't that the mission? Isn't that why we're here in the fight? So we can go home. And Steve says, every time someone tries to win a war before it starts, innocent people die every time. And so, you know, eventually that leads to him going into the barn, and Nick Fury goes, you know, and he's trying to repair a tractor that Clint's wife said it's on the fritz. Said, do me a favor, try not to bring it to life. And you know, Nick Fury goes, artificial intelligence, you never even hesitated. And Tony goes, look, it's been a really long day. Eugene O'Neill long. So how about we skip to the part where you tell us where you become useful? Look me in the eye and tell me you're going to shut him down. He says, you're not the director of me. I'm not the director of anybody. I'm just an old man who cares very much about you. And Tony says, I'm the man who killed the Avengers. I saw it. I didn't tell the team. How could I? I saw them all dead. Nick, I felt it. The whole world too. It's because of me. I wasn't ready. I didn't do all I could. And he goes, you know, Maximoff, of course, she's working you, Stark, playing on your fear. He says, I wasn't tricked. I was shown. It wasn't just a nightmare. It was my legacy, the end of a path that I started us on. And, you know, it was a hint towards our future, you know?
Absolutely. That line from Steven there about when people try to stop wars before they start, innocent people die, like, or innocent people get hurt. Like, I think of that often if I'm watching Civil War, and I think of that even just looking at Winter Soldier, which of course came out before this one. I think of that line. Like, that line plays both directions to me. Absolutely. Great moment there. And I kind of like that we had 2 from Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
A movie that is often panned among the MCU movies. I like that we still found a couple great moments.
We did. Yeah. And I think, and even Snell said his all-time favorite scene in Ultron was the party scene.
So that's a fun one.
Yeah, it is. So, all right. So what is your number 1? Can we make it through without having the same scenes?
It's from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep. We're going to make it.
Perfect. When the Ravagers have Peter.
Okay.
And Drax and Rocket show up, threatening to blow him up. If they're going to blow up the Ravager ship if they don't turn over Quill. The scene right after that, where it's just the Guardians in a circle talking, and at first it's an absolutely hysterical scene of them all talking over each other, of Peter upset that, you know, Rocket only gave him to the count of 5 to turn him over before he was going to blow him up.
Yep.
Drax saying, we saved your life because we didn't blow you up. And that whole scene, I think, is just absolutely hysterical. And then it subtly transitions into Peter saying, we have an opportunity here. We can do something because it's the right thing. And he tells them, usually life takes more than it gives, but not today. Today it's given us something. It has given us a chance. And when Drax says a chance to do what, he replies simply, to give a shit. And
yep,
that's the scene where he's like, I need your help. I've got 12% of a plan. And every time I watch this scene, couple months ago, my wife was watching Guardians. I was actually working from home at the time. And when I heard they got close to the scene, I'm like, all right, work's going to have to stop for a few minutes. And I had to go watch it with her. I've watched this scene so many times. it's given us a chance to give a shit. It's like, it's such an awesome moment. And then you get the whole, okay, Gamora, I have lived with my enemies. It'll be an honor to die among my friends. Drax saying he's going to fight with him and then be reunited with his family. Groot, just says, I am Groot. And Rocket's like, what the hell? I don't have that long a lifespan anyway. I love it. I just love this scene so much. It is such a master of the comical and the seriousness all woven together.
Oh, yeah. That is a great scene. I'm literally like watching the scene in my head right now because I've seen that movie so many times. Love it. Great choice.
It is action or not. It is my favorite Guardians of the Galaxy scene.
Travis goes, Yondu's funeral for me if we're talking Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes. The way, I mean, that scene is real emotional. That scene is real. And when Kraglin does the Ravager salute when he hits his chest as he realizes everyone showed up. Yes, I totally think that one would be up there for Guardian seats. Absolutely, Travis. Yeah. Good pick.
All right. So my number one, like I said, we very interestingly have none of the same choices, at least for today. Mine is Nick Fury and Captain America and Winter Soldier talking about Project Insight.
The elevator scene?
The elevator,
not the elevator fight, not the elevator fight,
which has produced some amazing memes lately. I have seen some outstanding elevator fight memes. So Steve and Nick start off in the elevator, and he's saying, Steve goes, they used to play music, and he tells them the story about his grandfather operating one of those things in the 40s. And he said, he walk home every night, roll one stuffed in his lunch bag, and he said hi to people. People say hi back. And as time went on, the neighborhood got rougher. They'd say hi, and they would just keep on stepping. Granddad got a little grip in that bag, a little tighter. You ever get mugged? Every week, some punk would say, what's in the bag? And what'd he do? He'd show him a bunch of crumpled up ones and a loaded 22. Granddad loved people. He just didn't trust them very much. And yeah, I know. And that's when it reveals they're a little bit bigger than a 22. And you see the new helicarriers at that point, and just the 3 new helicarriers. And the scene goes on at that point, and Fury goes, well, we had a few, referring to Tony Stark in the Avengers when he got an up close look at it. He had a few suggestions, up close look at our old turbines. So these new long range precision guns can eliminate 1,000 hostiles in a minute. The satellites can read a terrorist DNA before it even steps out onto the sniper hole. We're gonna neutralize a lot of threats before they begin. And Steve goes, I thought that the punishment usually comes after the crime. He says, we can't afford to wait that long. And Steve goes, who's we? After New York, I convinced the World Security Council we needed a quantum surge in threat analysis. For once, we're ahead of the curve. And Steve goes, by holding a gun to everyone on Earth and calling it protection. Nick responds, I read those SSR files. Greatest Generation? You guys did some pretty nasty stuff. Steve responds, yeah, we compromised, sometimes in ways that made us not sleep well at night. But we did it so people could be free. This isn't freedom. This is fear. And Nick responds, S.H.I.E.L.D. takes the world as it is, not as we'd like it to be. It's about damn time, near past time that you start getting with the program, Cap. Steve Rogers responds, don't hold your breath.
So good. So good.
It is. That is why Winter Soldier is my number one MCU film. I'm a sucker for spy things, but the ramifications of that film and the elevation, I loved First Avenger in Chris Evans. This is what made him. This is the movie that propelled him to be, no longer the joke of Human Torch or anything like that. I think this showed that he could carry a movie in a serious way.
I completely agree. It's like a lot of people slept on the first Avenger, and then the Avengers movie came out, and okay, more people are interested. They go back and check it out. Clearly they liked what they saw there, because Winter Soldier just blew up compared to those. And to this day, it is a ton of people's absolute favorite MCU movie, if not favorite comic book movie all around. And it's in that category of, I get it. I totally get it. Can't argue it at all. Wonderful pick for a favorite movie. Great pick for a scene, for a non-action scene. This was fun. I like this. I kind of want to feel like I need to rewatch some of these now just to re-enjoy. I'm probably going to go watch that Guardians one more time.
No, so that's that. It was a lot of fun. I loved your suggestion at that point. So, so we've come to we bring Marvel Alliance number 20 to a close. So I want to thank you, Brent, so much. You're a good friend, but Travis and I definitely appreciate you coming on when we need you to come on at that point. And always being willing to do that. You bring great insight, and I know this won't be the last time.
No, probably not.
Like you said, you've already been on a fourth of the show, so we know you'll be there at that point. So but yeah, thank you so much. And why don't you tell people where to find you and your shows?
Yeah, go to squadcastmedia.com. You can find the shows. Brent Tech Prime on Twitter. So co-host Fans Without Borders, and sorry, I don't know how to classify it right now, but we did drop an episode of Marvel Squadcast talking about some of the latest news with my co-host and good friend Brock, who I've known forever. I knew there was some stuff in there he was going to want to talk about, so I had to get him on the mic for that.
Of course, he's a Doctor Strange fan. He's got words.
He loves the magic characters. And definitely told me about a Doctor Strange story that Mephisto almost ruined. So, like, well, we'll watch out for that one. But yeah, Fans Without Borders, Marvel Squadcast, Brent Tech Prime on Twitter.
Yeah. And so yeah, again, thank you again. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast, and me personally at Chris Balga. And you can also follow Travis at Travis B. Snell. You can email the show at Marvel Alliance Podcast at gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network. Continue to feel free to tweet, email, want to provide feedback, ask questions, fact or fictions. We're listening to it all. We'll listen to your strange theories. Is there a multiverse? What are your favorite scenes, non-action scenes? Love to hear that at that point. Continue to rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts or whichever your podcatcher of choice may be. Thank you, as always, listeners. Thank you to those who joined us in the chat tonight. We appreciate it. We love it very much. We look forward to, we're at 20. I'm not going to say we're looking forward to 20 more. We're looking for many, many more. Thank you, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers.